more circular thing than that. I think you guys are going to have to come back to this exercise, and then we're also going to have to go do more definition of those groups, and we will later on. But this can also help you, you know, we left columns so that you can add different groups. So all co-ops have all worker co-ops have workers, members, and a board of directors. But these other columns are for whatever groups that you guys have. You might have committees, you might have an advisory board, you might have stuff like that for you. So you can fill those in and talk about what your structure looks like. But thinking about the different decisions that have to get made can also help you decide on that structure too. So I think it's a useful exercise to do. But you're right, we need to do a round of like deciding on structures and then come back to this again. And I hope you guys all treat this as a document that you keep coming back to and keep revising, you know, like at least once a year or maybe more than that as the need arises, so that you keep this all in one place and your group uses this as an ongoing tool so you know who's supposed to do what, okay?
Oh, yeah, so our group we're trying to create a farm as part of a bigger land-based project. So the idea is the like farming co-op would be, for the most part, a separate entity. But if you know there are big major decisions, for example, about land use, the whole community has to decide that. And so it's just like if there are other examples of how that kind of structure works.
Yeah, it was kind of, we had the conversation and it was like really awkward to have like, you know, is the bigger organization and we just part of their board and because they're going to own the land, you know, and we still don't haven't decided that who owns the land. If the farmers own the land and the other part of the land is from the big nonprofit or the big umbrella organization. So it was kind of like who gets what first or who makes decisions on what. So like to have maybe members of the farm to be in the board of the or the board of the big organization become like an advisory board. We got really stuck. And we were just three of us making that happen.
Did the exercise help you like articulate what the problem is though? Did it kind of firm up what the questions are that you need to figure out?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I think it's doing its job if it got you that far. But yeah, it can be really. Yeah. All right. So I think, you know, again, I think we should, you know, consider this a loop-to-loop, you know. So we're starting here with the decision-making matrix. We're going to go on to like your structure, your organizational structure, and then come back to this to the decisions. And I think everybody should just keep in mind that this is a process that we keep doing. Yeah.
We had slightly broader topics or pretty different ones from the operations stuff like youth growth, so I could try to share those
Yeah,
with Future
please.
Focus. So Cedric, Dee, and I went over these. We have 2 new members of Future Focus up there, not new, but new to the Co-op Academy, sorry. Dominique and Josh, they weren't part of this discussion, so I'll report, but so we were thinking at the beginning everyone would be on the board of directors, or maybe even an LLC where we wouldn't have a board, but we put it in there, and, you know, because we do want to grow to a place where we'll have more members than we have a board. So we said every decision we could think of, the workers had decision-making power on. And they were major things like approving new members and deciding criteria for new members. So the workers would decide, and all members, so we might have members that use our resources and things like that, like use the video equipment, or are part of our marketing, the marketing component of our co-op, but aren't workers, everyday workers in the co-op. So they would have input on that, but not have the final decision. Same with the board of directors on approving new members. Expelling a member, a non-worker member, then it would be decision of the workers. All members would have input, the board of directors would have input. Expelling a worker member was a separate layer, but it's also decide, but we wouldn't check with all members, we would notify membership to expel a member. And then disbursements of net profits, workers would decide, all members would be notified and board of directors would have input. Approving the annual budget, workers and board of directors would decide together and all members would have input. Decide whether, and then the last two are similar, decide whether to take on debt or workers and board, change to mission, vision, values, workers and board, input all members. So it is similar, like long-term stuff the board is involved in.
How often do you think that you would make those kind of financial decisions? Would that be something like that any member at any point could say, I want to rethink how we're using our profits, or would it be like every year when you decide your budget?
Most of those are annual decisions, but yeah, budgets can change 2 or 3 times a year, possibly. Mission and vision value changes are even less frequent, right? Maybe every 5 years or something.
So does anybody have questions about this? Or you guys haven't, did you tell us what was on your sheet so far? I mean, I know you didn't get too far, but you had some stuff.
Yeah, so we wrote out our roles, as in like the folks who we know, like there's a bus owner, there's the bus driver, there's the youth group that whole with us education aspects. And then we brought up, so those are the roles of people that we have already filled up, and then we also thought of roles that we need to have, which then bringing people, so it's like deciding who comes up with the quote for each group, or who comes up with price changes, deciding just like stuff that we can make within decisions, like decision making within groups. What else?
Can you have your hand ready?
Yeah.
What do we have? Electing a board, bringing on new members.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, those ones were.
So yeah, like deciding processes of doing that, because that's stuff that we got.
Designing for the interior activity, we painted the bus on the outside and are working on doing other designs on the inside, so we talk about that as being a decision. If we're applying to grants, like which grants to apply for, and if there's like conflicts of mission, vision, value with that. Thinking out insurance policy is a major decision we have to make, and figuring out whether to be above ground with official charter, expensive charter insurance, or be underground illegal with our current like non-commercial individual insurance policy. Setting wages for workers and drivers. Figuring out, we still have to define a lot of work about what is the difference between a worker and a driver, and are drivers considered workers, and are there different wages for those, and how do we figure out, are we counting hours, would we pay hourly or monthly stipend, and is there a difference between other types of work and the driving work? Yeah, and then I just jotted down things other people said that fit with us. So.
All right. So it sounds like there's categories of decisions that need to go into these things, right? So I heard a couple of different things. There was graphical and marketing stuff, like how are we presenting this business, what language are we using to talk to the public about it. There was operational stuff about, how the product actually gets made, how our work actually gets done. There's like big picture and mission stuff, and how to make financial decisions at the end of the year. The personnel stuff. How many people got around to like what has to happen to fire a member? Did anybody talk about it? You guys talked about it. This is kind of a tricky thing in a co-op.
It's just like we got stuck in just taking the trash for a while. So
Who's taking the trash out? Yeah, I mean that sounds like an operational thing. It's like who does what jobs? What are the divisions of responsibilities? So we're just about out of time on this, but it sounds like people really get this exercise. I would encourage people, like if you haven't covered one of those topic areas, I would encourage you to go back and keep using this as a tool. Like if you guys are in a meeting and you realize that you don't have, that you're trying to make a decision that's not really covered on this sheet, it's a good time to go to the sheet and literally fill it in and say, how does this decision get made, and let's do it according to that way, and let's write it down that we did it this way so we know next time to do it this way again. You know what I mean? So you have a record of how it went. Anybody have more questions about this?
Really fast.
Yeah,
So for co-ops that are connected to a larger organization,
yeah.
we didn't talk about firing just because we have a firing policy for the program. So would it make sense to just replicate it but copying it specifically for the co-op, or to say that we're going to adhere to the HR policies of the agency that we're paired with for now?
Are you organized as a separate legal entity?
No.
And do you keep separate books and everything, or do? Okay, you're gonna need to talk to me about that.
Okay.
But yeah, if you're part of the same organization, then the policy holds for the larger organization.
I mean, we could make changes above and beyond, that'd be okay, so if we wanted to add to
You
it.
could add something that was a group of policies that apply just to the members of the co-op, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the place to make them. Okay, is there anything else you wanted to go over to review decision making from last time? Okay, and then the market research homework. Who did the market research homework? You guys did, right? Who else did ask some
Was that the answering question?
Yeah, the questions for customers and questions for,
I don't think we asked people, we came up with the questions.
you came up with the questions. Okay. Who actually asked people their questions? You guys did. Did you guys ask?
Not a
them?
lot.
Not a lot, but some. Let's see. Well, people who did ask the questions, I was gonna have you guys all, let's see how you guys wanna do this. What I was gonna do is have you all go around the room with a sheet of paper on the wall and to give us a report back on what you learned by asking these questions of people. But if people haven't done enough of that work, maybe it's not worthwhile to do that and we'll just stay in the group to do it. Would you rather stay in the group? Okay. All right, let's just do it that way then. So, do you guys want to start and report back what you learned by talking to people? Let us know what the questions were that you asked people and what did they answer to you?
Well, we found these two groups. One was a name, one was a name because we found it. They're a similar co-op business in upstate New York. They're called Worc,
Great.
where they do different transportation for people who are, let's say they have a relative in prison. They would have the people from
Oh, wow.
the city actually transport because the prisons are up to 10 to 20 miles away. So they do different businesses. We did